They say marriage is built on trust, but sometimes trust is the very thing that blinds you before it kills you. My name is Emily, and if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have sworn on my life that my husband, Nathan, would never hurt me. He was charming, smart, thoughtful in the little ways that made you feel seen. He made me coffee every morning, kissed my forehead, texted me sweet things in the middle of the day. We had met at a friend's wedding, and from the very first night, Nathan had me wrapped in this quiet, magnetic pull. He wasn't loud or flashy. He was the kind of man who watched everyone else in the room and knew exactly when to say the right thing. He made me feel safe, protected, desired, and when he proposed on a rainy rooftop with fairy lights and all, I said yes before he even finished the question. We got married 6 months later. I moved into his place, quit my job, focused on finishing my design degree. Nathan insisted I didn't need to worry about money. "Let me take care of you," he said, with that confident smile of his. It felt like a dream, until slowly, one sip at a time, it became a nightmare. Tattle. It started with the coffee. I know how ridiculous that sounds. The same man who brewed me lattes with little hearts in the foam was suddenly the source of my unease. At first, it was subtle, a bitter aftertaste, a sharp tang in the aroma. He claimed he was experimenting with blends, single origin roasts, cold brews, pour-overs, weird imported syrups. I didn't think much of it. Nathan was always like that, obsessive in short bursts. But soon, my body started reacting. Headaches, stomach cramps, a haze in my mind I couldn't explain. I blamed stress, school, hormones. Nathan comforted me, made me soup, tucked me in. He always knew when the pain would come, always had an excuse lined up, always too prepared. That should have been my first clue. Chatters. The first time I fainted, I was folding laundry, collapsed right on the bedroom floor. Nathan said he found me 15 minutes later, barely breathing. He rushed me to the ER. Tests came back clean. No infection, no virus, just a slightly low blood pressure and maybe dehydration. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that, because the alternative was too dark, too twisted for my mind to accept. That maybe the man who tucked me in was also the one tearing me apart. Cancer. But the thing about slow poison is that it's patient. It doesn't need you to suspect. It only needs you to sip, to trust, to keep drinking. And I did. For weeks, months, until the day his brother Ryan came to visit, and everything changed. Ryan showed up on a Thursday afternoon, with his usual easy smile and a suitcase that looked far too small for a week-long visit. He was Nathan's younger brother, a registered nurse, bright, chill, polite to a fault. We'd always gotten along. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he listened twice as much. And right now, I needed someone like that around. Nathan greeted him like always, big hug, pat on the back. But I noticed something in Nathan's eyes, a flicker of tension, like Ryan's presence wasn't just unexpected, it was inconvenient. Ryan stayed in our guest room, said he was taking a break between hospital rotations and needed a detox from alarms and trauma. I didn't tell him I was already living in one. Chan. The next morning, Nathan made coffee like always. 2 mugs, poured side by side, exact same ritual. But this time, I watched carefully. He took the blue ceramic mug, my usual, and reached into the silver drawer below the sink, paused, then stirred something. Quickly, I stepped closer. He didn't notice, or he pretended not to. When I asked what it was, he smiled. "Oh, just cinnamon. You'll like it. It's good for the gut." That's when I knew. Cinnamon. We never had any, and I never liked it. Ryan entered the kitchen mid-sip, yawned. "Something smells. Strong," he said, laughing. Nathan handed him the second mug, the plain white one. He handed me the blue. My fingers curled around the warmth. I hesitated, then smiled, and deliberately dropped a spoon on the floor. As both men looked down, I switched the mugs. Chattered. Ryan took 2 generous gulps before I could even sit. Within a minute, his eyes lost focus. "Whoa," he whispered. "Is it hot in here?" He gripped the edge of the counter. His knees buckled. I jumped to his side. "Nathan, call someone." Nathan didn't move. His face turned grey. I watched his expression morph, from confusion to realization to terror. Not for Ryan. No, for himself. He hadn't expected this. He never thought the wrong person might drink from the wrong cup. And that was the crack in his armor. I dialed 911. By the time paramedics arrived, Ryan was drifting in and out of consciousness. Nathan tried to act panicked, but I saw the sweat, the trembling, the way he refused to meet my eyes. At the hospital, the truth came out. Trace amounts of a compound were found in Ryan's blood. A slow-acting muscle relaxant. Banned. Difficult to trace, but not impossible. He would live, because he hadn't drunk enough. But if I had, day after day, sip after trusting sound sip, it would have killed me. Tempo. The police questioned all of us. They searched the house, and deep in the back of the garage, behind unused camping gear and boxes of old textbooks, they found it. 2 bottles, one labeled magnesium supplement, the other unmarked. Both held the same substance, one that matched what was found in Ryan's system. Nathan didn't deny it. Not fully. He said it started as a joke, a twisted prank, a small dose to test my reactions. But when I didn't notice, when I kept getting sick, but said nothing, he escalated. He said he wanted to see what the human body could handle. But that wasn't true. That wasn't why. I knew the real reason. Control. Nathan needed to be the god of our home. He needed to be the one who knew everything, controlled everything. And when I began regaining pieces of myself, he decided to erase them. But here's the thing. When someone tries to destroy you from the inside, and you survive, you don't just walk away. You rise, and you sharpen your rage into something useful, something deadly. The doctor at the ER was young, but sharp. He asked the right questions, took the right samples, and when I told him what happened with the coffee, he didn't blink. Ryan lay in the bed next to us, pale and wired up, but stable. "I've only seen symptoms like this once," the doctor said quietly. "It's synthetic, a variant of Carasaprodol, but altered. This wasn't recreational. Someone made this for a purpose." I nodded. Nathan was still in the waiting room. He hadn't tried to leave. He hadn't asked about Ryan. He just sat there, staring at the floor. He knew the moment the paramedics took Ryan away, that his plan had cracked open, but he didn't know yet how far I was willing to go. Chaton. Ryan stirred awake 3 hours later, groggy, but alert. He blinked up at me. "Where's Nathan?" That was the first thing he asked. "In the lobby," I said, but not for long. He didn't ask what I meant. He just gave me a slow nod and stared at the IV in his hand. Then he said something that chilled me more than the poison ever had. "I think I've felt this before." Chaton. It turned out this wasn't the first time Ryan had visited us in the last year. He'd passed through 6 months earlier, only for a weekend, but had left early. At the time, he blamed it on work, an emergency shift. But now, he remembered something, a strange headache, sudden nausea. One morning, he felt dizzy after a coffee Nathan had made just for him. He thought it was jet lag. Now he wasn't so sure. That was when it hit me. Nathan wasn't experimenting. He was practicing, testing doses, finding thresholds, trying not to kill anyone, until he was sure he could. When detectives arrived, they took Nathan into a private room. He didn't resist, didn't raise his voice, but his calm was calculated. They brought him out in cuffs. No shouting, no scenes, just that same cold glance he used to give strangers who annoyed him at restaurants, like the whole world was beneath him, like this was just another bump he could manipulate his way out of. And honestly, he almost did. Because when you're a handsome, educated, articulate man, they hesitate. They ask softer questions. They give you the benefit of the doubt. Even when you've drugged your wife and almost killed your brother, they said he didn't have a record, said the evidence wasn't conclusive enough yet. So, they released him on bail. Back to the house. Back to me. Chateau. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't blink. I sat on the couch, lights off, watching the hallway, waiting, listening. Nathan came in late, dropped his keys loud, went straight to the guest room, didn't speak a word. Not sorry. Not "are you okay?" Not even a lie. He just closed the door, and I knew, if the system wouldn't keep me safe, I'd have to do it myself, not just survive. Win. The next morning, I smiled. I made breakfast, acted like nothing had happened. Nathan walked into the kitchen like he owned the world, but I could see it in his eyes. He was testing the waters, trying to read me, to guess what I'd do next. I gave him nothing, just a kiss on the cheek and a plate of eggs. He raised an eyebrow. "You're calm," he said. I shrugged. Why wouldn't I be? He stared at me for a second too long, then sat down. Chatter. That day, I didn't go to class. I didn't meet clients. I made calls. To a lawyer, to a private investigator, and to Ryan. I told him everything. Not just about the coffee, about the finances, the slow isolation, how Nathan cut me off from friends, slowly took control of our accounts, and even had my name removed from our joint property. Ryan was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You know what scares me, Emily? He didn't just want to hurt you. He wanted you powerless." He was right. That night, I planted cameras. 3 of them. 1 in the kitchen, 1 in the garage, 1 in Nathan's office. Tiny, motion-activated, encrypted directly to my cloud. He didn't know I had access to his passwords. Didn't know I'd already copied his hard drives. In less than 48 hours, I had a folder labeled insurance. Every browser search, every purchase, even a draft email he never sent, with the subject line, dosage tracking, E.J., my initials. He was logging my reactions, like a lab rat. Chaton. The next step was the bank. I went in early, dressed in my most professional black, calm, sharp, prepared. I used the POA. Nathan forgot he gave me when we married, shifted half of our joint savings into a private account, froze the rest. I hired a lawyer that same day. Tough, female, former DA. When I told her everything, she didn't blink. "Play it slow," she said. "You want a clean takedown? You'll need a trigger event. Something irrefutable. I already had it in mind. I just had to push Nathan to try again. For the next 5 days, I lived in the same house as the man who had tried to kill me. I smiled when he smiled. I laughed at his dry jokes. I let him make the coffee again. But I never drank it. Instead, I collected it. Each cup poured quietly into a labeled glass vial and stored in the back of the fridge. By day 4, I had 6 samples. Ryan helped me get them to a lab. Quietly, privately. The results came back on the 6th morning. 4 out of 6 contained varying doses of the same muscle relaxant Nathan had given Ryan. And the kicker, the doses were increasing. He was trying again, trying to adjust, trying to make sure, next time, I wouldn't walk away. That night, I made sure the cameras were running. I made sure I left my cup half full, unattended, tempting, and Nathan took the bait. He entered the kitchen at 2:17, still in his t-shirt and boxers, silent as a shadow. He opened a drawer, reached behind the spice rack, pulled out a dropper bottles, unscrewed it, tilted, 3 drops, into the coffee, stirred. Then he rinsed the dropper and hid it again. I watched it all, live, on my phone. And I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I hit record. Ta-ta. The next morning, I served the coffee back, smiling, warm. I'm glad things feel normal again. I told him. He nodded, took a sip from his own cup, then looked at mine. You're not drinking yours. I will, I said. Later. He smiled like he believed me. He didn't know that he'd already signed his confession in front of a lens. And I was done playing nice. At noon, I drove to the precinct. I walked in calmly, placed my phone on the counter, and said one sentence. I have evidence that my husband is trying to kill me. They took me seriously, especially after I showed them the footage, the timestamp, the dropper, the vials, the lab results. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was a case. Ryan arrived to make his statement. The doctor signed off on the toxicology. Even my lawyer came, holding a printed copy of Nathan's dosage spreadsheet. Everything was lined up. Cheta. At 6:23 Tim. Matson. They arrested Nathan again. But this time, it was different. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just stared at me, with a look that said, "You were supposed to love me." I stared back and thought, I did, until you brewed that love, with poison. The trial took 6 months. He pled not guilty. His attorney tried to paint him as mentally unstable, said he was experimenting, struggling with stress, obsessed with control due to childhood trauma. They tried to discredit me, said I was dramatic, jealous, vindictive, but the evidence spoke louder, and Ryan, calm, measured, and medically trained, took the stand and dismantled every excuse. I watched Nathan's face as Ryan spoke. No anger, just emptiness, like he'd already been erased from his own story. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, I didn't cry. I didn't smile either, because revenge isn't about celebration. It's about ending the nightmare, on your terms. I moved cities, sold the house, donated his suits, burned the dropper. I cut every tie he ever wrapped around my life. But I kept one thing, the blue ceramic mug. I didn't keep it out of sentiment. I kept it as a warning, because every time I see it, I remember how easy it is to smile at someone while slowly trying to disappear them. So, Ryan and I talk often now. He checks in, sometimes stays over, but never asks what I went through alone in that house. He doesn't have to. He was in it, too. We survived. Something designed to be quiet and invisible. And that's the most terrifying thing of all. 1 month after Nathan's sentencing, I received a letter, no return address, just my name, scrawled in that familiar handwriting. Inside, a single line. You drank less than you think. There was no signature, but I knew Nathan had written it. Before he was transferred to the federal facility, I stared at the words for hours. He wanted me to be afraid, to doubt everything. But instead, I laughed, because he'd forgotten something crucial. I never drank. What he gave me. I watched. I remembered. I survived. And now, I thrive. It's been a year now. I have my own studio, my own bank account, my own life. The nightmares come less often. But when they do, I let them stay, because they remind me I'm no longer asleep. I'm awake, alive, and aware. Tom, some mornings, I still make coffee. Same kettle, same beans. But now, I choose the cup. And every time I lift it to my lips, I remember the girl who almost died, loving the wrong man, and the woman who made damn sure she'd never be fooled again. Not every victim stays broken. Some stitch themselves back together, with threads of fire and grit. I wasn't just another name in his journal, another dosage in his spreadsheet. I was the last woman he ever underestimated. So no, this isn't a story about coffee, or poison, or even betrayal. It's a story about survival, and choosing, every single day, to never hand your power to someone who smiles while silencing you. I was the target. Now I'm the end of his story. And if you're listening, maybe it's time to start writing yours. If this story made you pause, breathe, or remember someone you shouldn't have trusted, then don't just scroll. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because next time, it might be your story. Someone needs to hear.